Hello everyone, it's Abhishek here. Welcome to the 13th lecture on relations. Today we will be seeing how to compute the transitive closure of a relation in an efficient manner. In our previous lecture, that is lecture number 12, we have seen that a transitive closure of a relation defined over a set of cardinality n can be computed using the union, that is union of R composition, where R composition extends from power 1 to power n. And we have also seen that the algorithm prescribed by the theorem 1 for computing the transitive closure has a running time of order n raised to 4. At the conclusion of the lecture number 12, we have asked the question that whether we can do better than order n raised to 4 to compute the transitive closure of a relation. In this lecture, we will discuss an efficient method, better method to compute a transitive closure of a relation. To have a better understanding of the method which we are going to discuss for computing the transitive closure of a given relation, we will just recall the technique what we have used to investigate whether a given relation is transitive or not. To begin with, we consider the example number 1, where A is a relation set defined over 1 to 3 as 1 to 3, and R is a relation defined over the set A as given, where the first element is 2 comma 2, second element is 2 comma 3, third element is 3 comma 4, fourth element is 3 comma 2, fifth element is 3 comma 3, and the last element is 4 comma 4. Here the problem is we need to check if the relation R is transitive. So we have seen that it can be done in simple steps, where the step number 1 is writing down the matrix M of the relation A. So I'll advise the students to write down the relation so that they can refer this relation as we progress with the steps. So coming back to the step 1, we can see the matrix M of the relation R in the following manner. I have written down the matrix. You can see I have the columns I have written in red, and the rows I have written in green, and there is a specific reason for that we will see later. Now coming on to the step 2, from the matrix M we obtain a matrix M dash of order 2 cross cardinality of A as follows. So in the ith column of the first row of the matrix M dash, we record the positions of the rows in M having non-zero entry in the ith column of M. I repeat, in the ith column of the first row of M dash, we record the positions of the rows in M having non-zero entry in the ith column of M. And in the ith column of the second row of M dash, we record the positions of the columns in M having non-zero entry along the ith row of M. I am repeating, in the ith column of the second row of M dash, we record the position of the columns in M having non-zero entry along the ith row of M. You can now see that I have written the matrix M of the relation R on the left hand side, and the matrix M dash rising out of M on the right hand side. You can see the number of columns in M dash is equal to number of elements in the set A, and there are two rows. I have marked it as C and I have marked it as R. So C corresponds to the column and R corresponds to row. So as described in the step 2, I am first fixing up the column in the matrix M, and you can see I have fixed the column number 1 of matrix M, and I will be moving along the rows to check if there is a non-zero entry along the rows under the column 1. So in the intersection of row number 1 and column number 1 there is a 0 entry, so there is no entry I will be making in M dash. Now we move to the second row under the column 1 and we see that there is again a 0 entry here, so there will be no entry made in M dash. Now we move to the third row under the column M1 of M and we see that there is again a 0 entry, so there will be no entry made in the first column of M dash. Again we move to the fourth row under the column 1 of M and we see that there is again a 0 entry in the intersection of fourth row and first column of M. So in the intersection of first column and the first row of M dash there will be a blank entry. Now we move to the column 2 and we will move it along the rows under the column 2 to check where the non-zero entries. So in the first row and the second column intersection there is a 0 entry, so nothing has to be entered. Now we see that in the second row under the second column there is a non-zero entry, so we record the position of that row under the second column and first row of M dash. As we move along the third row along the second column of M, we see that there is again a non-zero entry in M, so that we record under the second column and the first row of M dash. Now there is no non-zero entries along the second column and fourth row of the M, so we close the entries in M dash. Now we move on to the third column of M and we again move along the rows under the third column of M and record the positions of the column where we encounter the non-zero entries. And you can see here as in the second row under the third column there is a non-zero entry, so we have recorded the position in the third column of the first row of M dash. Similarly, there is a non-zero entry under the third row and the third column of M, and that position we have recorded in the third row and first column, third column and the first row of M dash. And since there is no further non-zero entries in M under the column 3, and we close the entries in M dash. Now again we move to column 4 of M dash and we will be moving along the rows, and we can see here we are recording the entries where we encounter the non-zero entries. So this is how we complete the row 4. Now to fill the entries of the second row of M dash, we will move along the columns of M dash. So here I have fixed the row 1 and I will be moving along the columns along the row 1 and record the positions where we encounter the non-zero entry. So you can see here there is a all the entries along the row 1 is 0, so there is a blank entry here appearing in the first column and second row of M dash. Now we move on to the second row and we see that the first non-zero entry appears at the intersection of second row and the second column, which we record under the second column and the second row of M dash. Similarly, there is a non-zero entry along the intersection of second row and the third column. Again we record that under the second row and second column of M dash. And finally there is a non-zero entry in the fourth column and second row's intersection in M, which we record at the second row and second column of M dash. Likewise, we fill the entries for the row 3 and we see that there are we have recorded the positions where there is appearing non-zero entries along the row 3, and along the row 4 all the entries are 0, so that position is left as blank. So we have constructed the matrix M dash in accordance to the rule specified. Now once this has been done, we move on to the step 3. In the step 3, we define Ci to be the ith column and Ri to be the Ri to be the ith column of the row R and Ci to be the ith column of the row C, and we define for each I in M dash Pi as the Cartesian product of Ci and Ri. And I have repeated earlier also, this product is order sensitive and we will not change the order of Pi. It will always be in the order of Ci cross Ri. Now from the matrix M dash, we see that there is a blank entry appearing at C1 and P1. So C1 and R1, so P1 is 5. There is a blank entry appearing at R4, so P4 is 5, and we see that C2 and C3 are same, and R2 and R3 is same, so P2 and P3 are same, and this is the Cartesian product of P2 and P3. Now we execute the last step. The last step says that R is transitive if and only if each ordered pair in the union of Pi, there is an ordered pair in R. So now we can see here that union of Pi over I varies from 1 to cardinality of A. It is same as R, so R is transitive. So this problem we have seen earlier also in our lecture number 7, but I just repeated here so that you can recall this. So we will be using the same technique with little bit of tweaking to compute the transitive closure of a relation R. Now to understand how we employ the technique discussed in example number 2 to find whether the given relation is a transitive or not. To find out the transitive closure of a relation, we consider example 2. So here also we have taken a relation on the set A, 1, 2, 3, 4, and R is defined as 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 3, 4. Here the problem is again to test whether R is transitive or not. So we employ the algorithm discussed earlier to check whether R is transitive, but here we tweak a little bit in the step 2. As discussed earlier, the step 1 involves computing of the matrix M corresponding to the relation R, which we have done. Now going on to the step 2, we define the matrix M and matrix M dash. So now only problem here is that we have to fill the entries of M dash. So the tweaking what we will be doing here is instead of filling all the entries along the first row at one time at a stretch, and then filling the entries of all the entries of the second row, we will be filling the entries along the columns. That is, first we will fill the entries along the column number 1, then we will fill the entries along the column number 2, then we will fill the entries along the column number 3, and the entries along the column number 4 of M dash. So we begin filling the entries along the columns of M dash by using the data available with the matrix M. So you can see here as the first entry along the row under the column 1 is 0, so there is no entry. Now there is the entry under the second row under the column 1 is a non-zero entry, so we record its position under the column 1 of M dash. Now for the other remaining, they all are zeros, so there is no further entry to be made under the first column and first row of M dash. Now we move to the first entry of the first row and of M and move along the columns of M to find the entries along the rows of M dash. And you can see here that there is a zero entry, so there is no corresponding entry under the column 1 along the row R of M dash. Now there is a entry 2 corresponding to a non-zero entry in M and thereby completing the entries along the M dash. So why we are doing it? We are doing it for the very simple reason. Since R is transitive, if and only for each ordered pair in the union of Pi, there is an ordered pair in R. So in particular, this must be true for the ordered pair corresponding to P1 as well. So if we compute the Cartesian product of C1 and R1 for R to be transitive, this Cartesian product must be in the relation R. And we see that the Cartesian product associated with R1, C1 and R1 is not belonging to the relation R. So R is not transitive. So the basic question here is that can we extend the relation in example 2 to a transitive relation, and if yes, how? If a relation R is not a transitive relation, then it can be extended to a transitive relation by the means of a Warsaw's algorithm. But before we actually describe what is a Warsaw's algorithm, we will just see the steps with computational aspect of the Warsaw's algorithm. At the end of the lecture, we will be summarizing this entire steps in a much compact form. But as of now, we are detailing the steps of the Warsaw's algorithm. And the Warsaw's algorithm basically involves defining a relation Ri plus 1 as Ri plus 1 is equal to Ri union Pi plus of 1 in the step 1. Then we define M1 plus 1 to be the matrix of Ri plus 1 defined in the step 1, and finally in the step 3 we check if Ri plus 1 is transitive. If yes, we stop, else we return to the step 1. P1 was the ordered pair 2 comma 2 and the relation R was given, so we compute R1 in the form of R union P1, and which comes out to be 1 comma 2, 2 comma 1. Here the element pertaining to P1 is added, that is 2 comma 2. Then the original elements of R, that is 2 comma 3 and 3 comma 4. So we get the matrix M1, and you can see here that in the matrix M we have added the element at 2 comma 2 position to get the matrix M1. And now we again apply the algorithm, that is from M1 we compute the matrix M1 dash where the entries along the column number 2 has to be filled up. So we can see I am filling up the elements along the column 2 under the column 2. So moving along the rows, we find the first entry is 1, next entry is 2, then there is 3. For 3 we do not have anything, for 4 also we don't have anything. Now moving along the columns, we find the first entry is 1, second entry is 2, and the third entry is 3, and there is no entry pertaining to the column number 4 of M. So we close the entries of M dash. So we see the second entries under the second column of M dash. Along the row 1 is 1 comma 2, and along the second row is 1 comma 2 comma 3. So its Cartesian product is given by C2 cross R2 is given by 1 comma 1, 1 comma 2, 1 comma 3, 2 comma 1, 2 comma 2, 2 comma 3. And we see that the ordered pair 1 comma 1 and 1 comma 3 does not belongs to R1. So R1 is not transitive. Now since R1 is not transitive, so we'll again go back to the step 1. We have seen that the relation R1 arising out of the relation R was a non-transitive relation. So we go back to the step 1 of our iteration, and we define R2 as R1 union P2. So this is what we will be getting as a relation R2. Now we will test whether this relation R2 is a transitive relation or not. For that, I will construct the matrix M2 of the relation R2, and here I have highlighted the entries entries corresponding to the P2 which has been added to the relation R1 to get the matrix M2. So now using this matrix M2, we get the matrix M2 dash, and we see that the entries under the column 3 is 1, 2 and 4. So we compute the Cartesian product of these two entry and see that C2 cross R3 is 1, 4 and 2, 4. But we also observe that 1, 4 and 2, 4 does not belongs to R2. So R2 is not transitive. So we again go back to our iteration step 1, and we define R3 as R2 union P3, and this gives the modified relation R3, and again we will test if the relation R3 is a transitive relation. So for that, we again construct the matrix M3 corresponding to the relation R3, and here you can see the highlighted elements are the elements corresponding to the P3, that is P3 which has been added to the relation R2. So using this matrix M3, we construct the matrix M3 dash and find the entries under the column 4, and we find the entries under column 4 is 1, 2, 3 and the blank entry. Since so we observe here that the Cartesian product C4 cross R3 is an empty set, so R3 will be a transitive set. Why this is going to be a transitive set? So because the relation R3, what you are seeing here is nothing but it will be a union of P1 union P2 union P3 union P4. So that is how we will be see that the relation R3 is transitive. The method what we have described here is the Warshall's algorithm, and the Warshall's algorithm is basically an efficient method for finding the adjacency matrix of the transitive closure of a relation R on a finite set A from the adjacency matrix of the relation R. The key idea for the Warshall's algorithm is that if R is a relation defined on the finite set of cardinality n, and if there is a path from x to y in that relation, then the structure of the path will be something like x1, i1, i2, ik to y, where x, i1 will be an element of the relation R, i1, i2 will be a element in the relation R, so and so forth. Ik, y will be also a relation in element in the relation R. The vertices of the path that aren't the endpoints are called the interior vertices, that is the vertices which are marked as ij's in the path. So if there is a path from x to y in the relation, then we are basically interested in a path between x and y that uses only the first k elements as the interior vertices, and this is precisely where the Warshall's algorithm becomes efficient compared to the algorithm prescribed by theorem 1 in lecture number 12. So using this we define a sequence of binary matrices Wk at the kth iteration, where the elements of the Wk is defined by Wij raised to k, where Wij raised to k is equal to 1 if there is a path from Vi to Vj using the first k entries in the list and 0 otherwise. Now, since the matrix M corresponding to the relation R comprises of the elements having no interior vertices, we initialize M as W naught. Now, if we can find Wn, that will provide the transitive closure of the relation R. So the Warshall's algorithm in a summary is that step 1, we transfer to WK all the ones in the matrix WK minus 1. In step number 2, we list the locations WYIs in the column K of WK minus 1 where the entry is 1. In the step 3, we list out the locations of ZJs in the row K of WK minus 1 where the entry is 1, and in final step we put ones at all the position of yi comma wj of WK matrix if they are not already present. We now proceed to apply the summary of Walsh's algorithm to example number 2. We have renamed here as example number 4. So you can see the relation R is defined on the set 1, 2, 3, 4, and the first element is 1, 2, 2, 3. Then you have 3, 4, finally 2, 1. So we take the matrix M as the matrix obtained by the relation R, and we rename it as W naught. Now from this W naught, we need to find the elements of W1. So basic idea is that we will be applying the Warshall's algorithm here in a much compact form as we have seen, comparing to what we have seen previously. Since we want to compute W1, so here the value of K is 1. So basically we will be starting our algorithm with the first row and the first column of W1. Now we see that the first entry, which is a non-zero entry under the column 1, appears at the second row, and the first non-zero entry along the first row of W0 appears at the second column of W0. So we expect a non-zero entry at the position second row and the second column's intersection in W1. Since the intersection of the second row and the second column in W0 is 0, so for W1 we replace it by 1. Now we get the matrix W1. Now from this matrix W1 we will be constructing the matrix W2 again by starting at column 2. So under column 2 we see that the first non-zero entry appears at row 1 and the second non-zero entry appears at row 2, and along the row 2 we see that the first non-zero entry appears at column 1, then at column 2, and then at column 3. So for the matrix W2 we expect the positions 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3 and 2, 1, 2, 2 and 2, 3 to be non-zero, but among all these 6 positions the intersection of first row and first column, that is 1, 1 is 0, so we replace that element as 1, and the another position, that is 1, 3 is 0, so we replace that also as 1 to get the matrix W2. So we get the matrix W2. Now from this matrix W2 we will construct the matrix W3 by moving to the column 3. Now under column 3 we see that the first non-zero entry appears at row 1 and the second non-zero entry appears at row 2, and when we move along the column row 3 we see that the first non-zero entry appears at the column 4. So we expect the entries in W4 which will be non-zero is 1, 4 and 2, 4. So we make those entries as 1 to get the matrix W3. So we get the matrix W3. From this matrix W3, we will be constructing the matrix 4. Now we see that the entries under the column 4, which are non-zero, are appearing at row 1, row 2 and row 3, whereas the entries, there are no non-zero entries along the row 4, so no further elements can be added to W3 which are non-zero. So this terminates the Warshall's algorithm and gives us a transitive closure of the relation. And in this relation you can see that the algorithm which we have prescribed earlier, which we have studied in detail, this M matrix W0 is M, this matrix W1 is our M1, and this matrix W2 is our M2, and this matrix W3 is our M3. With this example, I conclude the session on transitive closure of a relation, and this Warshall's algorithm is a better algorithm than what we have discussed in lecture number 12, and the running time for this algorithm is n raised to 3. So thank you.